Hey everybody, welcome to ON1 Photo RAW 2022.5 A to Z. I'm Dylan Kotecki and I'm joined by Dan Harlacher.
Hi everybody.
And we're going to go over all of the exciting new features in ON1 Photo RAW 2022.5.
Now if you don't know, 2022.5 is a free update if you own Photo RAW 2022 already. Now probably the biggest thing we've added is we've integrated the brand new Resize AI technology right inside of ON1 Photo RAW. It makes resizing amazing. Now, if you've ever used genuine fractals in the past, you knew it could do a better job than bicubic or a lot of the more classical algorithms when it came to increasing the size of the photo, but it was still kind of limited by the information that the original photo contained. That all changes with Resize AI. It has been trained on millions of photos, looking at different examples of textures from the real world. It can faithfully recreate those at a larger scale. So it actually adds information to the photo rather than just blowing it up. So let's start off and I'll show you how to use it inside of Photo RAW 2022.5. Here we are. I just browsed a folder of photos that I'd like to resize. I'm going to start with this great B shot. I'm just going to click on a resize over here in the right-hand bumper. The photo is going to open up. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the handy presets that we include, which really take the mystery out of preparing your photo for print. It's not only is it going to help you crop the photo to size, scale it, sharpen it, all the things you need to do, all in one step. So it really makes it easy. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see the photo size pane. What we've done is we've combined the old pixel dimensions and document size pane into a single pane. Makes it a little easier to see. The other thing we've done is we've really optimized it for doing batch processing, so now you have multiple ways to scale. It used to just be pixel dimensions that you could scale by. Now you can scale by all sorts of things. Let me show you. Right here in the Resize 2 combo box, we can scale to dimensions. That's what we're used to doing, the width and the height. But you can also now scale by the long edge or the short edge or the width or height or megapixels, even if you're submitting to stock agencies, or percentage. So lots of different ways to scale your photos. I'm just going to use percentage for this one, and let's change it from 100 up to 400. So we're going to blow it up 4 times what it was. If we look at the info on this photo, it's pretty small to start. Only about 2,200 pixels on the long edge.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so now we're going to blow it up to 8,800 pixels. So
okay.
Much larger.
Yeah.
Let's zoom in and take a look at the difference here.
Oh.
Let me zoom over to a more interesting spot for us to look at. It's a big photo.
Wow. Wow.
So look at the difference. You'll see how it draws in. You'll see the before and the after. And if I toggle this on or off, you can see the difference. There's those original pixels. And there's after when that AI technology comes in.
That looks phenomenal.
That's pretty cool to be able to preview it on and off. We've even put in the split screen preview in here so you can actually just wiggle it back and forth so you can see the difference.
I love that. That's what I usually use when I'm previewing NoNoise AI as well. I like the preview bar.
Yeah, it works the same way. It zooms into 100%. Really lets you see what you're looking at.
That looks phenomenal.
Some of these crazy little, I assume they're hairs. I'm not an entomologist, but whatever you call
these little guys.
Dan? I did not go to bug school. I went to art school. So you can see there's before and there's after.
Wow, that looks incredible.
It's pretty crazy. Now, one of the things I really love about the new Resize AI is, again, I mentioned it's designed for doing batch processing. You can now open more than one photo at a time. And it used to be you had to kind of do it one photo at a time. You'll notice there's that familiar film strip that we're used to using in Photo RAW at the bottom. I can see all of the other photos that are in that folder. And I can actually select all of them and copy and paste resize settings across photos. Makes batch processing a lot easier. Let's say I'm preparing these for a show, and I want to print them all 24 inches wide on their short side, and the other side, I don't know how big it's going to be. It's going to depend on the aspect ratio of the photo, right? So instead of having to go through and pick them all one at a time and crop them, I can now do it all at once. So let's just start with this one photo here, and I'm going to change it from percentage to short edge, and I'm just going to make it 24 inches. There we go.
Oh.
And now, all I'm going to do is select all, and I'll hit the sync button. And if you watch down here at the bottom, you can see the original size and the resized dimensions. You notice how on the one that we've already adjusted, it's much larger. The other ones all match. I hit the sync button. Now watch. It's going to go through. It's going to recalculate that same 24-inch narrow side on all those photos. There you go. I've resized them all.
Oh, and then each one, right at the bottom, original, resize, just at one click.
Yeah, exactly.
One click.
One click, and then I just hit the done button or the export button. And it's going to bring up the familiar export dialog that we added in Photo RAW 2022. From here, I can pick where I want to save them, what I want to name them, what file type I want them to be. Everything all controlled in one spot. Makes it really easy to batch process here inside of Resize.
That is That is incredible, especially with just one click and all those photos are instantly resized to those dimensions. That is awesome.
Definitely. The other thing I really like is you can also batch print from here too. So, a lot of us have those larger printers, those 19-inch or 13-inch or even a 24-inch printer at home. I could print these on my printer if I have one using the print dialog. So now if I hit print, the new print dialog lives in here as well. We'll see those same photos at the bottom. They're all sized to 24 inches. And then I can go through and I can pick which printer I want to print on. In this case, I'm going to print to my big Epson 9900. We'll print on 24 by 30 inch roll paper that I've selected. I can pick my output profiles. I could even add a watermark if I wanted to. I put the little ON1 logo there in the bottom corner. And you can see how each page, how each photo is going to lay out and fit on those pages. Remember, they're 24 on one side. The other side is going to vary depending on whatever the natural proportions of the photo are. I just hit print, and now it's going to print all those, resize, sharpen, everything ready to go from Resize AI. So it's really a whole new generation. The amount of detail that you get is breathtaking. The capabilities with the batch processing and the batch printing and the ability to scale based on other parameters really make it the state of the art when it comes to resizing and scaling or blowing up, interpolating, whatever you want to call it, to make your photos look great for print.
Enlarging,
yeah. It's got pretty much everything that's in there. So
that's awesome.
You guys are going to love it to get your hands on it. It's amazing what you can do. If you've got old photos that were small from maybe the 3 to 6 megapixel, maybe even 12 megapixel cameras from the past, they can take those photos and blow them up larger. Or if you like to shoot wildlife, you're on vacation, you don't have that 400 or 500 millimeter lens that you need, you can now crop a small section out of that photo you shot with a 200 millimeter lens, magnify it up, just like you had that longer lens with you in your shot.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is
less to buy, less to carry around the
field. There you go.
Too, so
the best camera you have is
I don't know
the one
about you, but I can't afford a 400 2.8. So.
Right?
Yeah.
Jeez, that is incredible.
Yeah. So that's kind of Resize. It's the tip of the iceberg of all the new stuff that's in 2022.5. Next, let's talk about lens correction. Lens correction is a critical part of any RAW processing, and it's been inside of Photo RAW since day one. Its job is to take the photo that you shoot in RAW and detect the lens from the metadata, and then perform some corrections that remove distortion, peripheral vignetting, chromatic aberrations, all sorts of stuff that kind of happens in the optics of the lens. Now, we've made some really big improvements for this in 2022.5. I think the biggest one is we've added over 200 new lenses. So lots of new lenses. We've kind of spent a lot of work on Tamron and Sigma, some of those popular third-party lenses that oftentimes don't have profiles for them. So we'll now see those and match those. Now, let me show you how it actually works here inside of Photo RAW. I've got a photo selected. I've opened it into Edit, and down here underneath Noise and Sharpening is the Lens Correction section. Now, 90% of the time, this is what's going to happen. It's going to automatically find a profile and match it for your lens. And if I turn the pane on or off, you can kind of see what it does. There's before and after. You can kind of see on the edges how it kind of removes that distortion and brightens up the edges just a little bit. And that's what you're going to see most of the time. And as I mentioned, we've worked hard to add some of those other lenses like Tamron lenses. Here's an old photo shot with a Tamron lens. And if we look at this, you can see how it's matched that Tamron 28 to 75 lens and automatically corrected the distortion and the fall off on it. Now, we've also added another cool Neck 2 technology, which allows us to automatically fingerprint, basically build a profile on the fly for lenses that we don't have a built-in profile for. So if we take a look at this one at the end, this is from a little Fuji point-and-shoot camera, and there's not a profile for it. But we can actually, by analyzing the data, actually analyzing the raw photo, we can determine the correction automatically. And that happens, you'll see it'll say built-in right here instead. And if I turn it on and off, you'll see how it's still detecting that, and this is actually pretty wide angle lens, detecting it and correcting for it right like that on the fly.
As a Fuji owner, that seems very, very helpful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I love that.
But on most of the Fuji interchangeables, there's profiles for all those built in too. So our goal is to make sure that there's pretty much nothing that you're not going to be able to have good lens correction for. Now, there's one other case that can happen, and this will happen when you use an older manual focus lens that doesn't transmit some of the data that we need, or if you've created DNGs with old versions of the Adobe DNG converter, sometimes it actually alters the lens information, so it doesn't have everything that we need. So here's a good example. If we look at this one, you'll notice how, when we look at the information pane up here, it says it's a 70 to 200 2.8, but it doesn't tell us which one. It doesn't say if it's a Nikon, or doesn't give us any of the information that we need to actually map the right profile for it. And when we look down at the lens correction pane, it says no match. Well, we can fix that, and we can fix it for good. That's the cool thing. So I'm just going to come down here. I know what I shot it with. It was shot with a Nikon and an older 70 to 200 2.8. So I'm just going to scroll down until I find that profile. So there we go. I'll pick that profile, and you notice it now asks me, hey, every time we see this lens, do you want to use this profile automatically? I just say, okay. And now whenever it sees any other photos that have that same lens information, or in this case, lack thereof, it's going to pick the profile that I asked for. So it kind of gives you the way to override those styles. And those will appear right here in the styles section for your lenses in the lens correction pane, and you can further fine tune those if I want to. Let's say I like that, but I want to adjust the distortion a little bit. I can actually come in and I can tweak that distortion manually a little bit, and then I can just update that style. Update that style with those settings, and now my manual overrides are stored into that. So anytime it sees that, it'll apply whatever I wanted it to. So
that's sweet.
Really handy way to make sure you get better looking photos, less distortion, less chromatic aberration, less vignetting on the edges.
Totally. So, that's awesome.
Cool. All right, now let's talk about Sky Swap and some improvements we've made to the AI to improve the masks in that.
Heck yeah, I love Sky Swap. Let's do it.
Yeah. Now, Sky Swap AI was brand new in Photo RAW 2022. It can detect a sky in a photo, automatically generate a high quality mask for it, and give you a bunch of different skies you can replace it with. And it works fabulous like 99% of the time, but there were cases where it would struggle. Some of those things might be in the interiors of certain trees or very tall, skinny things like antennas that would stick up in the sky. So because it's based on machine learning, on AI, we were able to add additional photos and let it train longer, and now it can build an even better mask in those scenarios. So let me kind of show you. Here's one of those cases where it would struggle on some of these deep areas on the inside of this tree. Let me just turn it on here.
Ooh.
And there you go. So now you can see,
nice.
Actually, if we zoom in a little bit, I'm going to zoom up, and you can actually see through all those tiny little branches what a great job it's done. And if we take a look at the mask, you can actually see how it's got all those tiny little holes right there on the inside.
It's like someone refined it for you.
Yeah,
that looks amazing.
Let me show you another example. This is another case where it would have a hard time, and that's on these little spires. You can see how there's these little spires that poke up on the top, and these little narrow gaps between the main building, between the Taj and the little turrets here. Let me turn Sky Swap on here. There we go. And now, if we zoom in, you'll see how it's able to replace the sky in between. And if we look at the tiny little details, the little tippy tops of those turrets,
that looks awesome.
There, it's maintained all of that detail. And again, if we look at the mask, you can see how it's a very clean mask.
That looks incredible. This is my favorite feature for sure. I love swapping skies, and of course, making it better and better is just so exciting. That's amazing, Dan.
Well, definitely if you live in Oregon, because it's pretty much a white boring sky all the time.
Exactly. Or it's sunny. So
if you want an interesting sky, you got to fake one in there. So.
For sure.
Cool. Now, kind of along the same lines, keeping on that AI trend, we've also made improvements to NoNoise AI, kind of our class-leading noise reduction tool. Now, if you're familiar with NoNoise, there's kind of two different ways it can work. It can work on the raw photo, at which point it actually is working at the very, very deep raw level. It's actually at the debarring or the demosaicing process. So it really, really works very low in the process. But we also have to work on photos that aren't raw photos. So we call it RGB photos, so like a JPEG from your camera or a TIFF or something a Photoshop file. Yeah, something that's been processed, or even some DNGs are actually not truly a raw file anymore. So in those cases, we've made some big improvements to the results for that. So let me show you what I mean. So let me zoom in. This is actually a JPEG. And if we take a look at this, it's highly detailed, but super duper noisy at the same time. Let me zoom in even closer. So
especially behind him, in the background.
Yeah,
there's
look
lots
at all
of
that
noise.
That kind of obscures some of those details.
In the fur and stuff.
Yeah. So now I'm just going to go down to noise and sharpening. I'm in develop. I'll turn on no noise.
Ooh.
There we go. Now you notice there's a new control in here called method. This lets me pick between two different AI models. High detail is the new model, and that's the one for working on this kind of RGB data. Let me bring this over here, and I'm going to bring the slider back and forth so you can kind of see. So you can see the background is perfectly clean, but if you look at those tiny little details, those little itty bitty feathers, the detail in the sclera in the eagle's eye, it's crazy. Let me turn it on and off so you can see. That's before.
Wonderful, Dan.
It actually looks cleaner and sharper than when it had the noise on it.
That is really incredible.
Which is pretty rare. Now, you can use that high detail option on RAW photos as well, and it's kind of a personal taste as to which one you like better. I think the original one will do a better job at pure noise reduction, but if you're looking for a little bit more detail and you're okay with a little bit of residual noise, then it works pretty well on most RAW photos as well. So
that is awesome. That looks incredible, Dan.
Huge improvement. And if you happen to be a plug-in user, that's the same result you're going to get when you use it through Photoshop. So if you're using our standalone applications, that same benefit will come to you very soon as well. Alrighty, I think that is about the biggest stuff that's coming. And of course, there's lots of bug fixes and new cameras and new lenses. We had support for the Nikon Z9 and the OM Systems OM1 and 7 other new cameras that I can't remember off the top of my head. 200 lenses, lots of stability and bug fixes in there as well. So we're really happy with this release. We think you guys are going to love it. Again, it's a free update if you already own Photo RAW 2022. So go out and get it today.